Tony with IDX Broker, and I have with me Becky.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about widgets. We'll keep it pretty brief. I know you guys are all pretty busy, so we will do the best we can not to go too long. Going to go over some widget creation, and then we'll get into a little bit beyond the basics, and we'll talk about some CSS, which, as you guys probably know, is outside the scope of support, but we want to give you the tools that you can do it yourself if you want to, or you could always contact one of our developer partners and have them do it for you. We'll also give a couple of tips on troubleshooting widgets, which can be kind of difficult if you're not quite sure how to do it, and super easy once we show you exactly how that can be done. So let's jump right in. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is create a widget. So I'm going to go to Designs, Widgets, Create, and we're just going to go over some of the super basic stuff first. So if you haven't seen it before, then you'll know exactly how to do it, and then we'll dig in a little bit further. So the widgets that we have available are slideshow, showcase, and carousel in order to display properties. And we have the quick search widget if you want to put a small search on your existing page. We also have the map search. Now keep in mind the map search widget is only available on Platinum. And we have the lead login, lead sign up. Lead sign up is also only available on Platinum. And then of course the featured agent. So we're going to do a showcase widget. Now for the properties to feature, you can choose featured properties. If you don't know what that means, basically the account holder would need to be the primary listing agent for a listing, and it should show up under listings and their active listings. So any listings that show up under listings active would be featured listings. If you have a multi-user account, you can also do featured agents properties, where you can select one or more agents and just show their properties rather than showing all the featured properties on the account. Sold pending, you probably know how that works. If not, any properties that are active properties, when they switch their status, we push those over into sold pending as unknown, and you have to then manually go in and mark those as sold, pending, or contingent. We are working on getting sold data. It's something that we don't have available quite yet. However, we are pushing that out MLS by MLS. It's a little slow going because it's a major change, but we are definitely working hard to get that available. We're going to go ahead and choose custom search. And to get the most options, I'm going to do an advanced search. That'll give me the most fields to work with and allow me to limit or not as much as I want to. So this is where you would select any criteria, and keep in mind that when you're doing this, this is limiting criteria. So if I don't select anything in area, it's going to give me all areas. If I select one or more, then it will just give me those couple of areas that I've selected. So we're going to keep it wide open for now. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Generally, you want your widgets to be responsive. This means any div or anything that it's sitting inside of on your existing page, it will automatically adjust to that. And as you go down to smaller screens like tablets or phones, it will automatically adjust for those as well. So I'm just going to put IDX awesome widget. And I'm going to do 5 columns. We'll limit it to 100 listings. Something to keep in mind, if you are using a carousel widget, the limitation is actually 25 properties on a carousel widget. So something to consider when you're deciding what kind of widget to use. So I'm going to click on Build Widget. And when I do that, it spits out this little piece of script. I can just copy that right here, and I can put that right into my existing page. Now I'm working on WordPress, so I'm just going to go to Pages and an existing page that I've got, go to IDX Widgets. When you put the JavaScript code in, you want to switch to text mode. That way it honors all of the scripting tags. So I'm just going to click update. I'm going to check out that page and see what it looks like. All right, so there's my widget with all of the properties in accordance with any filters that I might have set, which on this one I didn't. So as you can see, it's showing quite a few properties. Another thing to keep in mind when creating widgets, I'm going to go back to the widget list. And this is super important and something that not a lot of people realize when they're creating widgets and they're creating a map widget. So let me create a map widget. In the map search widget, it's very important that you specify the page that the map widget is going to sit on or be integrated with. If you don't do that, you're just going to see a map widget on that page that says loading, and it will never load the properties. So if I was going to be putting it on this page, I would simply copy this last piece after the URL and put it in there. With or without the slash, it depends on how it renders. And when I build the widget, then I will integrate it onto that page and everything will work properly. Another thing I wanted to discuss real briefly is when you go into, let me go into that awesome widget I created. When you edit the widget options, you'll notice that the sorting order is pretty limited right now. We have highest to lowest price or lowest to highest price or order of custom list. We have an enhancement request in with development. I don't have an ETA quite yet, but we are working on getting that to be much more expanded so you can do the type of sort orders that you can do right now with saved links. It's kind of confusing to a lot of people what order of custom list is. What that really means is if you're creating a widget that you're going to put a list of MLS numbers in, then you can sort by that custom list. That is the only type of widget that utilizes sort by custom list. Now, we don't have a way built into the product right now to randomize the sort order of widgets. It's either going to be highest to lowest or lowest to highest at this point. That is a cool idea though. Any ideas that you have, any enhancements that you'd like us to make, while we couldn't make any promises, of course, definitely send to help@idxbroker.com and we can submit that enhancement to development to see if we can get them to do that.
They are asking about multiple selection on the polygon map search due to the fact that there could be more properties in more than one location for a community.
We don't have multi-selection, however, if they are somewhat close together, you could actually draw, let me actually do it. So let me do widgets create, and we'll do add widgets, and we'll do, say, a showcase, polygon. So you have this polygon tool where you can actually draw quite a complicated selection or object. So if I have a couple, what I could theoretically do is, let's say I've got some properties over in this top side here, and then I've got some properties over here. So you can see I can make a little connection here. Now it's going to show some of these properties here. If you get it right on the money, if you get that thin enough, then it won't show properties between the two. I know that's kind of a wonky workaround, but if you're really needing separate areas, it's either doing it like this that we're showing or making multiple widgets. So you could do one widget with one area, a second widget with a second area, and because each widget has its own ID, you could actually put both widgets on the same page. So that would be another way to get there. What else you got?
What widget allows for the maximum amount of listings that can be shown? I notice on Facebook a lot of my agent friends can, for example, show every listing in Sedgwick County, around 2,200. I noticed that if I were to do a shop now and post my search results page, Mine is limited to 500 listings.
So we do have a limitation. We do have a limitation from most MLS boards that allows us to only return a maximum amount of results of 500. Unfortunately, that's not a limitation that we can do anything about. When it comes to widgets, the widget that's going to get you the most results would be the showcase widget. You can do up to 100 properties. If you are needing to do more than that, then the previous suggestion would work here as well. You'd want to create multiple widgets and integrate those on the same page. Now, the real question would be, why would I use a widget with so many results rather than a saved link? It may be better to use a saved link in that instance. And as long as your IDX is set up properly with a proper wrapper and the proper domain structure, it really doesn't make a difference as far as SEO is concerned to use a saved link. In fact, some of the search engine algorithms will get you better SEO with a saved link than they will with a widget in some cases. All right, well, while we've got some more questions coming in, I want to show you very briefly a little trick on edit by hand. So I'm going to go back into editing this widget. I'm going to go edit by hand. Now, keep in mind that when you edit by hand, the factors in this could at times change. However, there are times when you want to do multiple something, whether it be multiple property types, multiple areas, whatever it might be. I'm going to actually show you how to do multiple property types, but I'm going to throw a couple caveats in here. One, if you're using any advanced fields, this will not work. Two, as we're putting out updates, we're always changing and upgrading how multiple property types work. There's a possibility that we're going to get PT equals all running. Once we get that running, this may not work. But keep in mind, I'm only showing you on the property type as an example. The trick that I'm about to show you actually works for any of the fields. So you'll notice that property type equals 1 here. Let's say that I want to do 3 different property types. I'm going to separate them by the ampersand and say PT equals 2, PT equals 3. That's not going to work only because these are what's considered separate variables. We want to turn them into, and this is a little more advanced, but just move along with me and you'll see, we want to turn them into what's called an array because we want to keep all of them together and honor each separate one. So all we have to do is put brackets. So if you're ever adding a field and want multiple data from that field, simply adding the bracket to that field, the brackets to that field name, will turn it into an array and honor each individual data in that field. So that's something that can be very useful as you're building these widgets, and maybe you're not. I'll tell you what, one of the things that we get is, hey, the area is not showing up in the list for me, but I know that it exists. Well, that tends to happen when there are no listings in that particular area. But if you know the precise name of the area, let me update this. You can always go into edit by hand, and you can see it's a area, and there's the brackets. You can always go in, put your ampersand, put your area, and we can say my new area. If the area is the correct name, when a listing comes online for that area, it will automatically show up in your widget. So that's a cool way to get around items that you don't necessarily see in the field lists that you know exist and may get a listing for in the future. And that is the basics of editing by hand. So as far as you notice that we use this script to put the widget onto my page. Well, a lot of people don't want to deal with copying and pasting scripts. Sometimes it doesn't work. and there are different issues that arise. So what we've done, if you have the IDX Impress plugin installed, you can use shortcodes. What I have to do after I make new creations in the IDX control panel is go to IDX Impress Initial Settings, and I'm going to click Refresh Plugin Options. That will force the plugin to go out to the IDX server and pull down any new widgets that I created. So now I can go back to Pages and go to IDX Widgets. I'm going to pull this script out, switch over to visual mode, and now I can click Add IDX Shortcode, click on IDX Widgets, and let's see if it's in there. There it is, IDX Awesome Widget, insert shortcode, update, and that's it. So you could go through, create a whole bunch of widgets in the IDX control panel, refresh the plugin options, and insert them in any page, post, whatever you want using a shortcode. The nice thing about that as well is if I go to Appearance Widgets, say I want to put this on a sidebar or some different area of WordPress that isn't a post or a page, you'll notice that we pull all of them in as widgets as well. I don't know if my awesome widget is on here. Let me find out. There it is. So I can put this on, I don't know, just put it on my default sidebar, add the widget, and now my awesome widget is on my default sidebar. So as long as you have the IDX Impress plugin installed, super easy to use widgets anywhere on WordPress. If you're not using WordPress, no problem. Simply use the JavaScript code that we print out for you, and that will work just fine.
Some of my earlier widgets have an exclamation point that says new version available. What should I do?
Oh, great question. Great question. Unfortunately, at this particular time, we don't have an upgrade path for widgets. What that means is in order to utilize the new version of the widget, you actually have to create a brand new widget and then replace the widget code on your website from the old code and then delete that old widget. Here's the thing. If you're not experiencing any particular issues with the widgets on your website, leave them alone. There's no reason to upgrade. Some of the fixes that we have to do with responsiveness, that the widgets are not acting responsive properly, and things of that nature. But if everything looks great on your website, I say leave it alone. Don't even worry about it. All right, so let's get into another little trick that a lot of people are unaware of. You'll notice that on my widget, I have the address and I have the price. Let's say I want a little more data than that. While it's still pretty limited in what kind of data that you can have, there are actually fields that are coming through and just happen to be hidden. And it's a pretty easy thing to do to get those fields showing up in your widget. If you go to Edit Your Widget, click on Widget Options, under Modify Widget CSS, click Show. You will notice, let me expand this a little bit to make it easier. You will notice we have a pretty decent little list of other fields that you can display on your widgets, and the display for all of these is set to none. You know that because there's a comma separating each one and then the display none at the end. So here's the list of additional fields that are available. No, there aren't any others that are currently available. That would be an enhancement. But if I remove one of these, so let's say I want to show the showcase listing ID, all I have to do is remove this from the list. So I'm going to delete that. Now you can see that I have a listing ID on my widget, and you can do that with any of those fields. Kind of a cool thing, a question that I actually happen to get quite a bit. All right, so now that you know you can add fields by unhiding them or removing them from the display none, let me show you a little bit about CSS. The greatest way, one of the questions we get is, do you have a list of all of the CSS elements that you use on your website? Well, we don't, and one of the reasons for that is with different templates, they could change. There are hundreds of different elements that you can access, and the entire thing is exposed through a browser inspector. So if I right-click, and I've already got it open, but if I right-click on any one of these and choose Inspect, my browser inspector opens, and I can actually see the class. So this one is IDX Showcase Listing ID for the class. Let's say I want to do color green, which actually nobody uses words anymore. It actually will convert it if I choose it from the color picker. So I can actually change, let's say, do font size 20px. So you can see that right here in the inspector, I can change the color and the size. When I'm ready to actually make this live, because this is only doing this on my computer, I can simply right-click and copy selector and go back into my modify CSS for my widget, paste that in there. Ooh, it's going to take the whole thing, which I don't have to be as precise as that. I could actually just use the class and get everything. But all I have to do is add my curly brace, add that, and my curly brace, my closing curly brace, and let's see if it actually takes. And there it is. Now you'll notice that only this one particular item is changing the way I want it to. That's because of my level of specificity when I did that. If I just use this, let me get that in there. I bet you I can pop it right in here. Yeah, and that'll do actually all of them. I'll do font size. That'll actually do all of the text. Font size 20px. That's absolutely huge. That's ridiculous. It looks terrible. And then I can just copy this whole thing in there. And we'll actually replace this guy. And the only thing stopping me now is if I have to use important. So the question becomes, when do I have to use the important tag? The only time you have to use the important tag is if something is already specified. If it's already specified in the CSS, the important tag will overwrite it. If it's not specified, then you don't have to use important. And you can see I changed the text color, and it looks all funky and green like I wanted it, though I don't know why anybody would do that. So that is a little bit on custom CSS and how you can use the inspector. One of the major things about widgets is they will take on some of the CSS from your website, and there is a possibility that you'll run into conflicts with the JavaScript. The best way to start your troubleshooting process is actually using a widget preview rather than trying to troubleshoot it where it's embedded into your site. So I'm going to preview this IDX Awesome widget with the magnifying glass. And you'll notice that it's still going to apply my wrapper from my website on the preview. Now let's say that I'm really wondering if maybe my wrapper, maybe my design is getting in the way. What you can do is add the ampersand and then the words no wrapper all pushed together. No wrapper, hit enter. That will actually strip the wrapper just for this session from your preview. If things start working, then you know there's probably something in your wrapper causing a problem. But wait a minute. The text is still green, there's still weird things going on, whatever it is. Let's say I want to strip the CSS as well. That would be ampersand bare. Ampersand bare We'll keep everything from the IDX control panel, but we'll strip all of the other CSS that you apply. So you can see that I only am ending up with what's in the IDX control panel. So Bear is an awesome tool as well. The other thing you want to do is, if you notice that it's a problem with your wrapper, you can reapply the wrapper, open your inspection tool, and go to console. Generally, the console is going to show you any JavaScript errors that are occurring. So if you see a JavaScript error with the no wrapper not applied, and the JavaScript error goes away with the no wrapper applied, you know you've got some JavaScript in your wrapper that is causing some issues. Now I'm going to try to open this up in Firefox because I want to show you. I'm going to give you a little personal opinion here. I love the Firefox inspector. I don't love Firefox, but I kind of prefer their inspector and their inspection tools because I think they work a little bit better in my personal opinion. All right, so if I go to the hamburger menu, yes, it is a hamburger menu, and click on developer, and let me find it in here, inspector. And I usually pop the inspector out, so I have it on my second screen. But it works basically the same way. However, it kind of tends to list the elements on the right-hand side a little bit differently. And then the console can be a little more verbose, I have found. So you can use either one. You can use the Chrome inspection tool or the Firefox inspection tool, switch over to console, and see if there are any errors happening. If you happen to know JavaScript, you can actually punch in a little bit of JavaScript at the bottom and see it run in an instant. So some pretty cool stuff there. Awesome. Well, if you have any other questions, definitely feel free to throw us an email, help@idxbroker.com, or feel free to give us a call. Any one of us are happy to help you. And thank you very much for joining us in this webinar, and we look forward to the next one.